I think we're all going to have to find ways to learn faster, now that AI is doing quite a lot of what used to be in the realm of humans. Me, as a software engineer, I do see the writing on the wall, and much of the day-to-day is becoming commoditized. What isn't becoming commoditized is the ability to create new models and find unique ways to train those models. However, that requires getting into areas that I might not be as familiar with. And so, for example, the math that is required to understand textbooks like this, Deep Learning Foundations and Concepts, I can open up to almost any page and see some pretty intense mathematics. Now, I've always felt like software engineering doesn't require a special brain, and that's true. But when it comes to the advanced topics in this textbook, maybe I've kind of thought that that requires an extra level of intelligence, and I've shied away from it. But I've been using a lot of AI recently, and I've noticed that it's a really good teacher. And so that's why I created Textbook Graph. It's an application that uses GraphRag, retrieval augmented generation, and knowledge graphs, especially, in this unique way that helps me learn. And so I think it's important that we all stretch ourselves in whatever field that we're in to learn some topics that maybe we thought were out of our reach before. And so I think that's what Textbook Graph does. So let's jump in, and I'll give you a demonstration. Now keep in mind, this is a prototype, and I would appreciate any feedback. And so it is free right now. It uses a lot of AI calls, API AI calls, and so it's costing me money, but you can use it for free. And I just ask that you, when you use it, let me know how it works for you, or if it doesn't, or any features and functionality that you might have as an idea that could help me improve it. All right, with that, let's get started. You'll see on the screen that we have a landing page, and it's turned complex textbooks into smart interactive knowledge graphs. Effortlessly extract, visualize, and master the essential concepts from dense textbooks. Learn smarter, not harder. So the first thing that I need to do is upload a new PDF. So I'm going to upload this. So it's the book that I just showed you. And I used a special machine to scan this in. I won't make this video about that, but if you're interested, you can ask me in the comments below the video, and I'll give you the information. What it's doing right now is uploading the book to S3, and then it will cache it, so the next time that you load that same book up, you don't have to wait as long, right? So we're going to upload it first, and then it's going to be usable. All right, now that it's been uploaded, you'll see a wizard appear. So we can go ahead, and the next step we need to do is extract the table of contents. And we're going to use AI to do this. So let me hit continue setup, and it will take us to a wizard. And that wizard now, after the upload your book has been completed, let's go ahead and extract the table of contents. We do that by clicking this. So it'll take just a little bit of time to load that document or that PDF book up from your cache. And we have a little tutorial on the right here that shows turning the page to the actual table of contents of the book, and then we'll click this button over here. So I'm going to hit next until we get to the first page of the table of contents. Now that we're on the first page of the table of contents, we're actually going to use AI under the covers to go ahead and create the sections of the book that will become the beginnings of our knowledge graph. Let's hit extract. This will take some time because it's making calls out to the AI API, and it's looking for the structure using prompt engineering of the table of contents to then generate this knowledge graph, the beginnings of our knowledge graph. Successfully extracted 370 table of contents entries from 11 pages. Over on the right-hand side now, we'll see all of the different sections of our book based on this table of contents over here. We need to accept all, and then let's go ahead and save our table of contents. All right, successfully rebuilt the book structure. We now created 370 new sections, and the book is now ready for chunking. So now our next step, we have to set the page offset. So this is important, even though the book Page one doesn't start on page one. There's always in these types of textbooks some preamble and some other pages that come before the official page one. What we'll want to do is actually set that page offset now. And that helps with making sure that our table of contents goes to where it's supposed to go, as well as when we chunk, it's chunking the right sections and putting them in the right place in the knowledge graph. So what we'll do is go to page 22, and that's the real page one, because you'll see this page number 1 down here, but there's 21 other pages that come before it. So I'm going to go ahead and set this as the official page 1, and then that means we've now completed the first 3 steps of configuring this book. Now we're going to go ahead and start the chunking process. Now we're on step 4, start the chunking process. You can see the knowledge graph on this page that we've started to build. We can expand out any one of the sections of the book. So here's chapter 1, and I'm going to go ahead and chunk this entire branch. What I mean by chunking is we're storing the information in different sections. So this is our chunk, and when we click on it, it is text, but it's being stored in a way that we're able to store structured and unstructured data together so that we can build this out. And when we do I'll show you, when we start studying the book, we're going to be able to ask questions, and it's going to be easier for the system to find the right place to start within our knowledge graph to help answer those questions and give us more feedback than if we were just asking a regular LLM about what we wanted to know. It'll make a little bit more sense in just a minute. So now that we've chunked all of these sections out, we can expand these out. These are green. You can look over here on the legend and see what all of the different colors mean. Let's do one more. So standard distribution, let's chunk that one out too. And this will make it so that our AI powered search is more powerful and can find the right information when we need it. All right, so now we've got 2 sections chunked. Now we're pretty much ready to start learning. So as I'm reading the book, so if I go back to the regular page now, so if we go back to the wizard, it'll say, hey, all of the steps are done, and let's return to study. It will load the book up again from the cache, and we can actually start studying now. Let's go to one of those sections that we chunked. So let's go to the standard distribution section, multivariate Gaussian. We can also drop in a note. So as we build essentially our second brain and have these profound thoughts, we'll want to be able to reference them later on when we're asking other questions. We might forget the types of insights that we learned before. So deep level insight. You can even put in a formula if you want, so it understands LaTeX, and you can put in actual mathematical equations, and then it will look like a mathematical equation rather than raw unformatted equations. So let's save that note. So now that note will be on page 70. And we can also do things like, now let's go to our study chat. Let's say we wanted to understand what this formula means. Let's go ahead and snapshot this. We can actually take this whole section, give it the picture of what we want to know about, not just have to write out everything. We can say, what does this formula mean? So it'll think for a little bit. It will look at this image that we gave it about the formula. All right, so we've got the image shows a mathematical formula related to the multinomial distribution. Here's a breakdown of the content. All right, but this doesn't necessarily have any references. So what I want is to have references to chunks. So let me go ahead and say, what is the multivariate Gaussian? Send that. All right, now we have some references. So that it will give us some information on my question. So here we have, so what is the multivariate Gaussian? The multivariate Gaussian distribution, also known as the multivariate normal distribution, is a generalization of the one-dimensional normal distribution to higher dimensions. And we can have a conversation back and forth until I have a better understanding of what's going on. But what is also helpful down here is that it's giving me some reassurance that as my knowledge graph is being built out, that knowledge graph, it's adding to the improvement of the responses that I'm getting. So here we have what your what your data added. So it added 2 exact page references and included 12 mathematical formulas from the text. And then it will show me which pages. So it had this marginal distribution page, as well as, the nearest neighbors page was also relevant. And as we chunk out more and more of the book and add more and more notes, the types of responses and references that it's able to come back with, because not only can it find the information that it's needing based on this maybe you're familiar with a retrieval augmented generation type search, but it can also traverse this graph structure, and it can see my notes, it can see the chunks, and it can also, as I start building out different types of entities in subsequent versions of this, it can use that type of information to improve the responses that it gives. So it's a very powerful tool that creates a new way to advance and speed up the learning process for dense material that you can find in these types of textbooks that I think if we all want to make $100 million, like people are getting packages to go work at Meta to learn this type, to come up with new advances in this type of material, then I think this is an excellent way to study and learn this type of deep learning and other types of dense textbook material. All right, thank you for joining. I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Bye.